At what point in the wedding did you think the bride and groom would not be husband and wife for long? When the bride's work friend was having a slow dance with her at the reception and feeling her arse up in front of the groom, family, and friends. She left the groom the day they got back from their honeymoon. And she kept all the presents. The bride invited her coke dealer to the wedding. Groom didn't know him and didn't know she had such a big problem. I was a +1 at a wedding last year. By the evening, bride was so drunk and she asked me to help her pee in her dress. I didn't know her, but being a gal's gal I assisted. I made small talk whilst she peed and asked if she was having fun, etc. She went into a weird trance and said, "When I walked down the aisle, I was really disappointed that the groomsman I shagged a month ago didn't turn up." I don't think she realized she said it out loud. Anyway, marriage lasted 9 months. Had a neighbor who got arrested the night before his wedding in a bar fight. Then, the night of the wedding, walking back to the hotel with his new wife, decided he really needed pizza. So he tried to walk into a local pizza place. It was closed, so he kicked in the door and kept walking. Got arrested 2 blocks down the street. So she spent the night before and the night of her wedding alone and crying. When they told me this story, they were in the process of trying to get pregnant and have since had a kid. They got divorced very recently to absolutely no one's surprise. When the bride specifically said she did not want to feed each other cake, and he aggressively came at her with cake and shoved it in her face hard enough that it was in her hair and ruined her makeup while laughing about it. It also came out later that his groomsman ate her special gluten-free lunch while setting up for the ceremony, and he didn't say anything about it. It was less than a year. When the groom shoved wedding cake into his new bride's mouth so hard that it chipped a tooth, bloodied her lip, and blood staining her wedding gown. He kept pushing until she tripped over a tree root and fell backwards, breaking her wrist. The groom's own father then began to beat the hell out of him. Good times. At the rehearsal, the groom's stepmother told the bride-to-be that he was a loser who would never amount to anything, then gave the best man groom's older brother money to buy the groom a lap dance and hook her. But the best man brother went to the bride's hotel room that night and tried to make out with her. I really didn't think it would last at that point, but we've been married 23 years now, so it turned out okay. After the wedding, her mom got them a room at the local motel for their honeymoon, but they came home because they got bored. Bride and groom had been together for years and she was hopelessly in love with him and he treated her like dirt. This went on for years with her begging him to get married. Finally, one day, he proposed. I think he said something romantic like, "If it'll shut you up, let's get married." I was friends with a girl who was friends with the bride and went as her +1 to the wedding, which was held on Super Bowl Sunday. Early into the reception, the groom and his groomsmen left the party to go to a bar to watch the game. His parting words to the bride were, "You know I love you, baby, but I've got $10 on the game." They lasted nearly a year before she got tired of him cheating on her and she finally left him. The groom immediately downed a full glass of vodka as soon as they did the entrance. He was staggering, stumbling, weeping the whole time, and she basically had her reception alone. This was September. By Halloween, he was gone, living in another state with a woman he met 2 weeks before the wedding. They had been together for 7 years. This week would have been their 27th wedding anniversary. He did come back for his belongings a few months later and told her he got so drunk out of guilt and he was too scared to call the wedding that she paid for off. I remember it so well because it was the first wedding I ever attended, and the ceremony was just beautiful, and her coworkers were all in tears about how we all wanted this for ourselves. Then the reception happened and we were all like, no thanks. She was never the same after that. It was her 3rd wedding. Same place and same car as the first 2 times, even though the groom was new. When my ex-best friend was bragging while we were getting ready for the ceremony about sleeping with other men, she said they had an understanding when I asked if he specifically knew about it. She said he doesn't need to know him all for people having whatever type of relationship they want, but don't make me complicit in your cheating. I was at the wedding of a couple who I worked with at a restaurant years prior. At one point during the reception, I'm doing shots with the bride and I tell her how much fun I'm having and that she looks beautiful in her dress. She then whispers in my ear to meet her in the bridal suite in 15 minutes. They didn't last longer than a year. It was actually before they married, when they explained that they were getting married, to get the first one over. Yeah, it didn't last. The groom and his groomsmen did a coordinated time warp dance from Rocky Horror Picture Show in the middle of the wedding, and the bride sat there stone-faced the entire time, obviously unamused. Ultimately, they were just 2 very different people. Marriage lasted about a year. At the reception, the bride sat in a chair and cried because no one could get her any cocaine. They were divorced a year later. When I walked into the cocktail hour reception, said hello to an old friend from college, and he said, so I was thinking about writing out the check I brought as a gift right to their divorce attorney, and I laughed and said I asked my wife if we really had to bring a gift because we both know this marriage won't last. Still trying to figure out how everyone except the bride and groom knew their marriage was a bad idea. When the groom and father of the bride got into a fist fight at the rehearsal dinner, groom drops the father with a clean right hand. Brother of the bride steps in to defend dad. Him and the groom go at for 2-3 minutes. Groom's father gets involved. Half the wedding party had black eyes and fat lips for the ceremony. The couple was divorced less than 6 months later. When the groom was passionately slow dancing with the best man, the bride was crying, by herself, with no one comforting her, sitting on a folding chair. That seemed less than a match made in heaven. At the wedding, everyone, even the parents, bet how long the married life will be. The marriage was only 24 hours long. Everyone argued about it and no one won.